It was a gift. Natalia's eyes widened. From Ariana? Marisol simply nodded. Seriously? Natalia whispered, her voice full of genuine awe. You are so lucky. Marisol looked at her reflection one last time, wondering if Natalia was finally right. He's waiting for me downstairs, isn't he? The crystal chandeliers of Grimaldi Hall cast a warm, golden glow over the ballroom, but Ariana's focus remained entirely on the girl at his side. He led Marisol through the crowd, ignoring the swirl of red dresses and black suits as if they were nothing more than background noise. Have I told you how beautiful you look tonight? Ariana asked, his voice low and smooth. Marisol adjusted the silk of her dress, her stomach twisting in a mess of nervous energy and sudden thrill. At least 3 times, she answered. She tried to sound casual, but she couldn't deny the way his undivided attention made her pulse quicken. Since she had stepped off the stairs of the West Wing, he hadn't looked away once. I can't help myself, Ariana said with a shameless shrug. He flagged down a passing caterer and lifted 2 thin, elegant glasses from a silver tray. I like dressing you up like this. Marisol eyed the amber liquid in the glass he handed her. What? Like I'm some kind of doll? Exactly. Ariana took a slow sip of his own drink, his dark eyes gleaming with a possessive light. A pretty little doll for me to show off. One that only I get to touch. The weight of his words sent a spark of heat through her. She knew she shouldn't enjoy the hungry look in his eyes, but she found herself leaning into it anyway. To hide the flush creeping up her neck, she took a long swallow of her drink. She immediately crinkled her nose at the sharp, bitter aftertaste. Okay, Marisol sputtered, wiped her lip. This definitely isn't apple cider. Ariana didn't look surprised. Of course not. Someone always slides the caterers a bit of extra cash to swap the juice for champagne. Marisol glanced across the room. Dean Robles stood near the string quartet, deep in conversation with the musicians. The dean hasn't noticed? Oh, he knows, Ariana murmured. But as long as a vintage bottle finds its way to his desk by Monday morning, he stays quiet. Marisol took another sip. The liquid burned her throat, but a pleasant, heavy warmth began to settle in her chest. It was a massive step up from the cheap canned beer her ex, Ricardo, used to keep in the back of the freezer. She looked up at Ariana, the alcohol making her feel bolder than usual. You look really good tonight, too, she blurted out. I can't remember if I mentioned it. Ariana arched a dark eyebrow, a smirk playing on his lips. I mean, you don't look horrible, she corrected quickly, her face heating up. Actually, the opposite of horrible. He had swept his dark curls back from his forehead, and his black suit fit his frame perfectly. Instead of the traditional red rose, he wore a single, blood-red poppy pinned to his lapel. I'm glad you approve, he said, his voice dropping an octave. Marisol turned her attention back to the room before she could say anything else embarrassing. Grimaldi Hall was breathtaking. She had only been inside once during a freshman tour, but tonight, filled with the scent of thousands of roses and the sound of violins, it felt like a scene from a movie. Marble floors replaced the school's usual hardwood, and a grand spiral staircase acted as the backdrop for the elite students of St. Benedict's. She felt the weight of a dozen stairs as they moved through the hall. Usually, the scrutiny would have made her want to hide, but with Ariana's arm locked firmly with hers, she felt a strange sense of armor. She felt untouchable. Across the room, she spotted a familiar face. Sophia stood by her date, looking stunning in a crimson halter gown. The girl's green eyes weren't focused on the music or the decor, though. She was staring directly at the spot where Ariana's hand rested on Marisol's waist. The jealousy on Sophia's face was so sharp, it was almost tangible. Marisol didn't look away immediately. Instead, she let a small, satisfied smile touch her lips. Of all the looks she had received tonight, Sophia's bitter envy was easily her favorite part of the evening. "Would you like to dance?" Ariana asked. The music shifted into a slow, melodic rhythm. Marisol froze, her confidence wavering. "Oh no, I really can't." He didn't give her a choice. He led her toward the center of the floor, his hand firm against the small of her back. "Ariana, stop! I'm a terrible dancer." Ariana ignored her protest and placed her hand on his shoulder, guiding her movements with practiced ease. "Do you trust me? Is that a trick question?" Marisol asked, blinking up at him. Instead of answering, he spun her quickly, the world blurring into a streak of red and gold. Before she could catch her breath, he dipped her low. She gasped, clutching his shoulders for balance, but his grip was steady. He leaned in close, his breath warm against her ear. "See? Nothing to worry about," he whispered. Marisol felt the tension drain from her limbs. As they moved, she realized Ariana was doing all the heavy lifting. He was graceful and fluid, masking her clumsy steps and making her look like she knew exactly what she was doing. "Where did you learn to do this?" she asked. "My mother had me in dance classes before I could even walk," Ariana said, nodding toward the other couples. "It's a requirement for these types of functions. Too many childhood galas to count. I guess the lessons paid off," she noted. He looked down at her, his expression softening into something almost human. For a moment, he didn't look like the dangerous, calculated person she knew he could be. He just looked like a boy at a dance. After a few more songs, the champagne and the spinning left Marisol feeling lightheaded. She excused herself to find a restroom, intentionally avoiding the main hall's bathroom to escape the crowds. She found a smaller, quieter one down the corridor. She leaned against the cool marble sink, closing her eyes and enjoying the silence. Her skin still tingled where Ariana had touched her. The peace didn't last long, however. The door creaked open, and the click of high heels echoed against the floor. Marisol opened one eye and saw Sophia standing there, her red gown shimmering under the lights. "Need the sink?" Marisol asked, her voice laced with dry sarcasm. She turned to face her rival, expecting a sharp insult or a demand to stay away from Ariana. Instead, she found Sophia looking uncharacteristically broken. Her eyes were glassy, and the usual mask of superiority had crumbled. "I need to know," Sophia said, her voice trembling. Marisol stayed leaned against the sink. "Know what?" "How you did it," Sophia snapped, a tear finally escaping and rolling down her cheek. "Don't act like you don't know. How did you get him to fawn over you like that?" Marisol felt a sudden, annoying prickle of pity. "Sophia, I spent 4 years trying," Sophia interrupted, her voice rising in desperation. "I changed my hair. I changed my clothes. I tried being clingy. I tried playing hard to get. He never looked at me. He never looked at anyone. I thought he was incapable of feeling anything." She pointed a manicured nail at Marisol. "Then you show up, and he can't keep his hands off you. Tell me what you have that I don't." Marisol realized Sophia had no idea who Ariana really was. She saw a prince, not the person who lived behind the mask. "You really want the truth?" Marisol asked. Sophia nodded, her stare fierce. Marisol sighed and pushed off the sink. "He likes me because I'm the one thing you can never be." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "And what is that?" "A charity case," Marisol said, holding up her hands. "He has a savior complex, Sophia. I have a sob story that he couldn't resist. That's the big secret." Sophia stared at her for a long beat, looking for any sign of a lie. Finally, she let out a harsh, disbelieving laugh. She muttered a curse under her breath about wasting her time and stormed out of the bathroom, her heels clacking loudly. Marisol couldn't help but grin. It wasn't the truth, but it was the only thing a girl like Sophia would ever believe. When Marisol returned to the ballroom, an auction was in full swing. Items like luxury car test drives and vintage wines were being sold off for thousands of dollars. She stayed near the back, watching until a handmade leather travel roll was held up. It was beautiful, perfect for her art supplies. She raised her paddle, but the price quickly soared past what she could ever afford. She lowered her hand, disappointed. Ariana was still stuck across the room, trapped in a conversation with the dean. Marisol! She turned, nearly spilling the rest of her drink. Federico! You startled me. Federico stood there in a sharp suit and an apricot-colored tie. He looked nervous but kind. You look great tonight, he said. You too, Marisol replied. Matching with Millie was a good choice. The color suits you. Federico adjusted his tie, looking down at his shoes. About the rose and the proposal, you don't have to explain. I saw Ariana's setup. I get it. Federico, I'm sorry, Marisol said softly. Your proposal was really sweet. It's fine. He waved her off with a sad smile. You and Ariana are together. I'm not trying to push. I actually just wanted to give you this. He reached behind him and pulled out the leather travel roll from the auction. Marisol's jaw dropped. You bought it? I saw you looking at it, Federico said, holding it out. My parents gave me some spending money for the charity, and I didn't see anything else I wanted. It's yours. Federico, I can't take this. It was way too expensive. Please, he insisted. I don't have much use for an art roll. Just take it. Marisol hesitantly took the leather roll, her heart sinking with a mix of gratitude and guilt. Thank you. This is the nicest thing anyone has done for me in a long time. Federico's face lit up. If you really want to thank me, maybe one dance? Just one. Marisol opened her mouth to say yes, but a cold, familiar hand slid around her waist. What a lovely scene! Ariana's voice hissed in her ear. Marisol felt a chill run down her spine. Ariana's expression was perfectly calm, but his grip on her waist was tight enough to bruise. He ran a finger over the leather roll in her hand. You should have told me you wanted this, sweetheart, Ariana said to Marisol, though his eyes were locked on Federico. I would have bought you the entire auction. The auction's over, Federico said, his voice surprisingly steady. And you weren't there. No, Ariana agreed, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I was busy making a $2 million donation on behalf of my family. A bit more significant than a leather tube, don't you think? The air between the two boys turned freezing. Marisol saw the muscles in Ariana's jaw tighten. She knew that look. Ariana, Marisol said quickly, trying to pull him away. The music is starting. Let's go dance. Ariana didn't move at first. He stared at Federico for a long, silent moment before finally turning back to Marisol. Of course, sweetheart. As they started to walk away, Federico called out one last time. Marisol, I forgot to say it. You really do look gorgeous. Marisol started to turn back to wave, but Ariana was faster. He whirled around, his movement a blur of violence. Before Marisol could even scream, Ariana's fist slammed into Federico's face with a sickening, heavy crunch. Don't ever speak to her again, Ariana growled. Fuck! Marisol shouted, her voice lost in the sudden, sickening thud of meat hitting marble. 3 seconds. That was all the time it took for the world to fracture. One moment, Ariana was pressed against her, his heat a familiar weight. The next, he was a blur of violence, pinning Federico Rios to the floor and pummeling him with a rhythmic, terrifying focus. The gala's golden atmosphere shattered. Screams erupted from the crowd. Members of the swim team surged forward, frozen in a state of confused loyalty, unsure whether to pull their captain off or join the fray. It took 4 lacrosse players, their muscles straining with effort, to finally pry Ariana away. Ariana stumbled back. His eyes were wild, dark, and predatory. But as Dean Robles shoved through the onlookers, shouting for order, Marisol watched a chilling transformation. In the span of a single heartbeat, Ariana smoothed his features. He adjusted his jacket. The meticulous mask of the perfect student slid back into place, hiding the predator beneath. "It's my fault, Dean," Ariana said. He held up his hands in a gesture of surrender. Marisol's stomach lurched as she looked at those hands. His knuckles were splattered with blood. Federico's blood. On the floor, the lacrosse player was a mess. His nose gushed crimson, and his eyes were already swelling shut. If they had been alone, if Ariana had 10 more seconds, Marisol wasn't sure Federico would be breathing. The crowd pressed in. Chaperones fluttered like panicked birds. Marisol wanted to melt into the wallpaper, to vanish before the dean's disappointment turned on her. "Ariana," Dean Robles said, his voice heavy with disbelief. "What happened here?" Federico let out a wet, gurgling groan. The dean snapped into action, barking orders for a doctor. When he was told the school physician was on vacation, he demanded the on-call nurse. His eyes drifted from Federico's battered face to Ariana's relatively unmarred appearance. Ariana hung his head, the picture of a repentant boy. "As I said, sir, it's my fault. Federico and I were just joking around, and that sparkling cider." He rubbed his forehead, his voice wobbling with a perfect, practiced tremor. "It's been making me feel funny all night. I don't even remember why I was so upset. I am so sorry." Marisol watched, jaw tight. It was an Oscar-worthy performance. The dean grabbed a glass from a passing waiter, took a sip, and immediately spat it back out. "This is alcohol," he hissed, his face turning a dangerous shade of red. "Someone has spiked the event." A wave of panic hit the room. Students scrambled to set down their glasses, the clattering of crystal echoing through the hall. Ariana looked at Federico in feigned horror, raking a bloody hand through his curls. "Oh God," Ariana whispered. "I didn't mean to do this. I don't know what came over me." Marisol scanned the room. No one looked suspicious. No one saw the lie. To the rest of the school, Ariana was just another victim of a spiked drink, a good kid who'd lost control because of a prank. "How much did you have, son?" the dean asked, his anger softening into paternal concern. "At least 3 glasses," Ariana lied. "Maybe 4. Marisol's eyes narrowed. He'd had 1. "Maybe." The on-call nurse arrived, her first aid kit swinging. After a brief, brisk exam of Federico, she sighed. "Broken nose, nearly broken jaw. He needs a real hospital, but he'll live." The lacrosse players began to hoist Federico up to carry him to the infirmary. Ariana stepped forward, his face a mask of contrition. "Should we call the police, sir? I'm willing to take full responsibility." "No, no." The dean waved him off, clearly terrified of the bad press. "Mr. Rios's injuries aren't critical. We'll handle this internally. As for you, Ariana, your honesty is admirable. It's clear you weren't yourself tonight." "Thank you, sir," Ariana said softly. He began wringing his blood-stained hands. "Do you need the nurse too?" "No." Ariana glanced at Marisol, a sharp, dark glint returning to his eyes. "I just need to clean up. Marisol can escort me to your office to use the first aid kit there, if that's all right." The dean nodded absent-mindedly. "Good. Go." Marisol stood frozen. Her ruined travel roll lay on the floor, soaking up Federico's blood. "Marisol?" Ariana called. She ground her teeth together. Coming! The walk to the office was silent and suffocating. Marisol was a boiling pot of rage and adrenaline. The moment the door clicked shut and the bathroom light flickered on, she spun around. What is wrong with you? She hissed. That was... Ariana didn't let her finish. He lunged, his lips slamming into hers. It wasn't a kiss, it was a collision. He shoved her against the marble counter, his tongue forcing its way into her mouth with a desperate, dominant hunger. Marisol's brain screamed to stop, but her body betrayed her. Her hands tangled in his hair, pulling hard, but the pain only made him groan deeper in his throat. The sound sent a jolt of heat straight to her core. He moved to her neck, his mouth hot and unrelenting. Marisol let out a sharp, embarrassing moan. She fumbled with the buttons of his shirt, wanting to touch the skin beneath, wanting to understand the monster. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathless. Ariana's hair was a mess, his pupils blown wide, his cheeks flushed. He looked human for once, shattered and raw. Marisol caught her reflection in the mirror. Her curls were ruined, her lipstick smeared, and a dark, angry mark was blooming on her neck. You left a mark, she breathed, touching the bruise. Ariana's arms caged her against the counter. Good, he murmured. The fury returned, cold and sharp. Good? No, Ariana. Not good. He brushed her hair aside, exposing the hickey. Why not? You're mine. I mark what belongs to me. What you did tonight was insane. Marisol snapped, trying to push him away. He didn't budge. You nearly killed him. He was fawning over you, Ariana retorted, his voice dropping to a dangerous level. Buying you gifts, acting like he had a right to be near you. He was being nice. Ariana laughed, a dry, mocking sound. You're so naive. You think he wanted to be friends? He wanted a dance. He wanted a date. He wanted his hand up your skirt. Marisol went quiet. Federico had asked her to dance. You're manipulating me, she whispered. You're trying to make everyone else look like a villain, so you look like the better option. Ariana cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing her lower lip. I never said I wasn't a bad guy, Marisol. But I'm your bad guy. And if I don't want a bad guy, then you're lying to yourself, Ariana said. He leaned in, his breath ghosting over her ear. You could have stopped me. When the dean was asking questions, you could have told the truth. You could have said I only had one drink. You could have defended Federico. But you didn't. Why? Marisol's heart hammered against her ribs. I was in shock. No, Ariana whispered. I think you liked it. I think you liked seeing how far I'd go for you. You're wrong. His hand slid down, disappearing under the hem of her dress. Marisol's breath hitched. His fingers skimmed the edge of her lace panties, teasing, testing, before pulling away. They were damp. He looked at his fingers, then back at her with a predatory smirk. Right. I'm wrong. Marisol felt a wave of shame so intense it made her dizzy. She was attracted to the toxicity. She was drawn to the very thing that terrified her. After tonight, you stay away from Federico, Ariana commanded, his tone shifting back to steel. No apologies. No talking. You ignore him. You can't tell me what to do. You're a control freak. I'm an Elfrida, he said, hooking a finger under her chin. I don't share. If you think I'll let anyone else even look at you after this, you haven't been paying attention. Marisol squared her shoulders, her voice trembling. I'm not letting you take away my choices. I'm not. Ariana smiled, and it was the scariest thing she'd ever seen. You can choose to keep Federico around, but I don't think he'll survive the consequences of that choice. He might fall. He might have an accident. Do you want that on your conscience? Marisol felt the blood drain from her face. "You're a monster." Ariana leaned down, kissing the mark on her neck one last time. "You knew that already," he whispered. "But I'm a monster infatuated. You just tie everything back to mortality and the role of death in the life cycle, and you'll get an A," Ariana said. He looked absurdly large on the twin-sized mattress. He was sprawled out in nothing but his uniform slacks and a half-buttoned white dress shirt, looking like a discarded Prince Charming. Marisol didn't look up from her desk. She stayed hunched over a study guide, chewing on a gourmet pesto turkey sandwich he had brought her. "We're not all geniuses, Ariana. According to the SAT scores you submitted to get into Billionaire Heights, you are," he drawled. A teasing smile tugged at his mouth. Marisol felt the bread turn to lead in her mouth. She fidgeted with the edge of the paper. "We don't need to talk about that." "Why?" Ariana closed his book and sat up, giving her his full, predatory attention. "You never told me how you managed to cheat your way here. I'm curious. Human proctors, cameras, it's a regulated system. Did you bribe someone? That takes money I don't think you have." "The how doesn't matter," Marisol snapped. "I disagree." He rose from the bed and stalked over to her chair. He leaned down until his dark curls tickled the side of her face. "Can't you indulge me? You cheated your way into the world's most elite boarding school. You deserve some bragging rights, sweetheart." Marisol shifted, her eyes catching his. Under the dim dorm lights, his inky lashes made him look almost innocent. She knew better. He was a monster, but he was a beautiful one. "I'm not telling you," she whispered. "Because you might realize I'm just as messed up as you are," she thought. Ariana sighed and stood straight. He pressed a chaste kiss to her neck. "Fine. We still need to discuss plans for holiday break. I'll be in Mobile with my mother," Marisol said, reaching for her water bottle. "I already bought the ticket." She needed the space. The dance had been intense, and while Ariana hadn't shown any murderous intent since, she needed to breathe air that didn't smell like his cologne. She needed a place where he didn't exist. Ariana hummed thoughtfully. He reached down and tugged her out of the desk chair. He sat on the edge of the bed and pulled her between his legs, gripping her hips so they were eye level. "I never thought I'd willingly take a trip to Saltillo," he said, his nose scrunching in distaste. "But there's a first time for everything." Marisol froze. "What?" "I should meet your family, shouldn't I?" He shrugged. "It'll give me a good reason to ditch my parents for the holidays." Marisol's heart thudded against her ribs. Dread coiled in her gut. "You want to come to Mobile? To meet my mother? Is that not what people in relationships do?" "Well, yes, but..." Marisol searched for an escape hatch. "There's no need to rush. My mom's boyfriend, Ricardo, is unavoidable. He'll hold you hostage with weed-fueled government conspiracy rants. I'm saving you from a boring, awkward break." Ariana's eyes narrowed. "Are you ashamed of me, sweetheart?" "No. Of course not," she said quickly. "What about your parents? If we're talking about shame..." Ariana stiffened. His grip on her hips tightened. "My parents are tricky. Now that they can't control me, they're grasping for power. In 10 years, I'll have the family trust and they'll be useless. Until then, anyone I'm attached to is collateral. They'd exploit you just to get to me." Marisol swallowed hard. She had worried about using the wrong fork at a fancy dinner. She hadn't realized. Meeting the parents meant becoming a political pawn. "You don't need to worry," Ariana said, swiping a thumb over her brow. "I'd never let them touch you. There's only one Elfrida you need to concern yourself with." He pulled her into a long, searing kiss. Marisol ended up halfway over his lap, her hands tangled in his hair. He was gentle, but he was still a control freak, setting a pace that left her lightheaded. Space, she reminded herself. I just need space. The gravel of the driveway crunched under Marisol's shoes. The saltillo heat hit her like a physical weight. She adjusted the straps of her new leather backpack, a $5,000 gift from Ariana. He claimed she needed a new one, but she knew the truth. He just wanted to replace the one Federico had given her. Mobile was exactly as she remembered. There was a Baptist church on every corner and enough palm trees to remind her the ocean wasn't far. She spotted Ricardo's rusted pickup truck, but her mother's car was gone. Great, Marisol muttered. Just me and Ricardo. She walked up the rickety porch steps and knocked. The sound of a loud sports broadcast filtered through the screen. A moment later, Ricardo ambled into view. He looked like a scruffier, unemployed version of a mob boss. You made it, he grunted, pushing the door open. Your mother will be glad. Marisol stepped inside. The smell of stale tobacco hit her instantly. Mom said you quit smoking. Ricardo shrugged and scratched his stubble. Those patches don't work for garbage. He turned back to the TV. There's dishes in the sink. Clean them up for your mother. Marisol crossed her arms. Frustration bubbled in her chest. They aren't my dishes. Ricardo pointed a meaty finger at her. It isn't your house either. You're lucky, kid. If you were my blood, I'd have charged you rent the second you turned 18. Your mother is too nice. He stood up and headed for the door. I'm going to the garage. You don't pay rent either, jerk, Marisol whispered to his back. She spent the next hour scrubbing dishes, vacuuming, and mopping. She wanted the house to be nice for her mom, even if Ricardo was a lost cause. She was halfway through a load of laundry when a shout came from outside. Marisol, bring me 2 more beers. Marisol groaned. She grabbed 2 cans of Busch Light from the fridge and stomped out to the garage, a rickety wooden shed that barely held a lawnmower. It's not even 2 in the afternoon, she said, stepping into the dim, cramped space. Ricardo was leaning over a rusted dirt bike. Don't talk about my drinking. Give him here. Marisol handed over the cans. Ricardo turned toward the back exit of the shed and whistled. Hey, Ivan, take one of these. A shaggy head of dirty blonde hair popped through the opening. Marisol felt her stomach drop through the floor. Ivan Castillo was taller than he used to be, but the baby fat still clung to his grease-smudged face. Marisol took a sharp step back, her breath catching in her throat. Ivan didn't even look at her. He snatched the beer from Ricardo's hand and disappeared. A moment later, the high-pitched whine of a dirt bike engine echoed down the driveway. Marisol waited until the sound faded before she could speak. What the heck is Ivan Castillo doing in our garage?